Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I'm your host, Maryann Petri, and since 2016, Monica Shimonik has been coaching moms and dads as they navigate through the treacherous waters of the family law racket. Aside from workshops, which helps with specific problems, her 12-week signature course, The Best Interest of the Parent, uses a 4-quadrant model to create a robust healing and empowerment system so that you control the narrative in your life, not the state. Use coupon code SLAM the Gavel to get 10% off her course, and that will be included in the podcast notes. Now, I've got a great guest. His name is Cordell Ellis. He's a book author. He utilizes his past experiences as an example, showing at-risk youth and others the consequences of negative decisions. Moenspire 365 LLC was established to support people through negative trauma. He also volunteers his time with the Micah Project, assisting incarcerated citizens achieve success through motivational speaking engagements. Furthermore, he also works with the Brothers at Peace organization as a mentor, striving to push youth to their full potential and to reach their dreams, goals, and aspirations. And how are you doing, Cordell Ellis? I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I truly appreciate you on your platform. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share.
Oh, most definitely, because I just was, reading your book, and what I really liked about it, oh, I'm sorry to make that noise, it's a nice book. It is double spaced. Not that my eyes are bad, but it just really flows beautifully, and it's just very well done. So how long did it take you to write this book?
It took me approximately 2 years to pen that manuscript. With that in mind, I penned this manuscript while incarcerated, and it took me 2 years in the midst of chaos and confusion that's all around you. And you can just imagine trying to focus and write something in the midst of that environment. But once the other guys recognized what I was doing, they respected it and they embraced it and gave me the space to do it and to be able to focus and continue to get the message out. So, yeah.
And I'm sure you saw a lot of young guys in there that had no clue. They were clueless.
Yeah. One of my jobs in prison was to speak to the new guys when they first come into prison after they are classified. There's a part where they have to go through orientation, and that would give me the opportunity to speak to them about the pros and cons of what they involve themselves in, and also the self-help programs that are available that are based on your behavior, that you take the initiative to rehabilitate yourself and put yourself in a position to be able to get a second chance or get back in front of the judge and be able to show the judge through your actions, not just your words, that you're a changed person. And that's what I try to do. I try to lead by example.
And, I think a lot of these issues evolve and come about to people through, we'll say, poor parenting. Would you agree, or?
Yeah, but we have to keep this in mind. For example, parents have a child, the first child, and there's no concrete parenting skills or books or manuals. But after the first child, if the parents have a second child, they may incorporate something different there with the second child that they recognized from the first child, and so on and so forth. But also, a parent, a person, can only share what has been instilled in them. And we are sometimes dealing with generational curses.
Mhm.
things that are passed down from generation to generation as traditional.
Mhm.
Is it right? Is it wrong? But it's traditional, and nobody ever questions anything.
Mhm.
Some children are taught to listen, don't question. So it's hard to deviate, but over time, um, sometimes you recognize it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes somebody outside may be able to recognize it. That's why it's important to have support systems or people around you that's able to recognize when something is going on and able have the ability to impede and assist you if they're able to recognize it. Some things don't get recognized.
Mhm.
And I can relate to you and your story because I have a daughter, and I'm a parent that was alienated from. I understand alienation.
Mhm.
I understand power and control. Keep in mind, I only have one child, a daughter,
Mhm.
and the sometimes the parent, because I keep it general. Sometimes the parent will control you by controlling the child. It's like playing chess.
Mhm.
And the child should never be in the middle of that, of parenting relationships or disagreements or whatever is going on with the adults. The child should never be a pawn in that.
Well
But
said.
yeah, but I mean, I've experienced it, so
Mhm.
I understand it.
Mhm. And this
Yeah,
happens, and like you said, a generational curse.
yeah.
And as I was reading your book, I hope you don't mind if I read this page, and it's in regards to your dad. Um, it says on page 90, I have realized and recognized over time that some of your worst enemies are truly not strangers but the closest to you, meaning your family, friends, and loved ones. In fact, these individuals know you and have means and wars of attacking you, whether it's physically, emotionally, or sexually. These are the ones who have the access to you. Strangers don't even have an opportunity to approach you unless you allow them to do so, because the simple fact is you recognize them as strangers. Now, at this point in time, there was a young boy who was next door neighbor of mine, who my father mentored to when he had his home-based bakery business that he operated out of prior to his home being foreclosed on, as I mentioned previously. Well, anyway, I never knew my father was bragging to this guy until we were all working at the same place, and I would ride with him from time to time. Me and my father were at odds during this time due to the fact because of us working at the same place. Our immediate supervisor would give my paycheck to him to give to me from time to time. I really didn't question this process, but deep within it didn't seem right. I often thought, why would an immediate supervisor give my paycheck to my father than to me, when I was the one who worked for it? Soon enough, the answer to that question was revealed to me. My father was, in fact, forging my name on the check and cashing it himself. And to make matters worse, he kept my pay. And how did that make you feel? I mean, that's really terrible.
Yeah, it actually angered me. Because I mean, I wasn't a child at the time. I was a grown adult. I mean, I was maybe 27, 28 years old.
Hmm.
And we had already had a previous dysfunctional relationship.
Hmm.
And I was trying to mend that situation, but he continued to do other things that built distrust and betrayal until, sometimes you just have to be the bigger person and just move on.
Hmm.
In spite of what somebody else is doing to you, it's normally, I always tell people, it's not what somebody do to you, It's your response that
Mhm.
matters most. It's the way you respond to the situation. Because if you always react to what they're doing, they have the power and control over you.
Mhm. And a lot of
You know,
that
you have,
sometimes is, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's difficult at times, but you have to maintain control of your emotions.
Mhm.
Because there's a word I always use. I learned this: passive aggressive behavior.
Mhm.
People will provoke a situation and then turn around and play the victim.
Mhm.
So you have to be able to recognize those certain traps that people try to pull you into.
Mhm.
Um, Always being able to not just listen to what they say, but observe those person's actions that are closest around you. That's um, your support system's supposed to be positive, but it always isn't. And the people you trust most are some of the people that'll harm you the most.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh, yes.
so
And that's like a form of betrayal. And what I was going to ask you was like, financial control. Your father was
right,
financially controlling you.
exactly. And keep this in mind. That's like a husband controlling his wife,
Mhm.
financially. And people have control issues.
Mhm.
Um, they want to control everything around them, and if you controlling a person's finances, you controlling a person's independence.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh, and a lot of parents are doing this to their kids. And this is just really, I don't even know if the kids even recognize that this is happening.
no, because you don't question the trust.
Mhm.
We are taught or we learn to trust our parents,
Mhm.
and when they're leading, guiding, directing us, we're thinking they're doing something in our best interest, but sometimes they have ulterior motives.
Mhm.
And it's hard to question what you love.
Well, that's
Does
true.
that make sense? It's
Definitely,
hard to
yeah.
question what you love. You love your
Mhm.
parents. And you try to block out those negative things that may arise at times that you recognize, but you don't want to accept as true.
Mhm.
And sometimes it does a lot of harm because you don't take the initiative to address that issue, or just having an open conversation with your parent.
Mhm.
Most time I'm the parent, you listen, and that's that.
Mhm.
It's not a two-way street,
Hmm.
you know, and there's no effective communication there.
Right, like the breakdown of the family.
Right, right, right,
And
right.
this leads to these our youth making poor choices and going down the wrong path.
Right, but also we have to understand um, two things are occurring now compared to the generation I grew up in. The generation that I grew up in and you grew up in, we were not exposed to social media the way it is now. We were not exposed to that. We were more social people.
Mhm.
Now we are more antisocial people, and we live for social media. We live to be something that we actually not. We
Mhm.
actually are a facade. We're something on the outside, but nobody understands what's actually going on the inside. We're not personable people anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying social media and technology isn't good. Everything
Mhm.
is good. Everything may be lawful. everything may not be beneficial.
Mhm.
And you have to be able to understand the two. Um, but children are being exposed to too much at a
Mhm.
young age that they don't truly understand.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
All right. And I share this because when I was younger, I experienced being sexually abused, but it was the other way around. I was being abused not by a man, but by an older woman, but I
Mhm.
was a young guy still in my teenage years.
Mhm.
And it confused me.
Hmm.
Yeah, it truly confused me. And it would have you acting out in a manner that you really didn't understand. Because things were happening to you that weren't actually explained to you, and you didn't know at that time who to turn to
Mhm.
because you actually trusted the person that was doing this to you. So,
And that's very sad. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
well, it affects your relationships
Mhm.
with women
Mhm.
when someone does this to you.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, everything is based on trust.
Mhm.
If you don't have the trust and the communication, um, you're going to be misled.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, what we look at, what we listening to, and what we talking about, those things actually affect our everyday behavior. And that's why it was so important for me to share my story from age 5 to 45.
Mhm.
And I was able to share the experiences of the
Mhm.
transformation. I was able to do that and enable others to be able to relate to that and understand you're not alone.
Right.
Because you can't address something that isn't brought to the surface. And children, especially children, have to have a voice. They have to have the ability to share their thoughts. And people have to listen to them.
Yes, I agree. A lot of kids just aren't, their parents are busy, whatnot. They're not able to express themselves and tell their parents things that perhaps a parent should know about.
Correct. And children are more apt to confide in friends rather than parents. And it should not be that way either. There's nothing your child's supposed to be involved in that your parent don't know about.
Right. I agree with
Period.
that. Mhm.
Period. Okay. And my book shares I led a double life. My parents thought one thing and I was actually living another thing. And there's children that can do this, and I'll tell you how they do it. They do it by making good grades. When you make good grades in school, you put on the pedestal and you are trusted more.
Mhm.
But you are more adept to take a lot of risk because you are trusted more. And the parent will say, "Oh no, my child didn't do that." Yeah, your child was involved in that. You just didn't know.
Mhm.
But a child should never have to go outside of the parent to confide in someone else rather than the parent.
Mhm.
That level of trust should be there, but every child needs a support system, positive reinforcement around them at all times. The parent um, should be the one that encourages the child to achieve their dreams, goals, and aspirations and helps them get in position to do so, not get in position to adhere or try to prevent them from doing something.
Mhm.
Even if you don't agree with the decisions or choices your child may want to make in life to be. Just because the parent is a lawyer doesn't mean the child want to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
Just support whatever dreams, goals, and aspirations the child has. you know.
Definitely. Maybe some parents don't know how to respond because everything is, everyone's looking at their cell phones all the time. They're, either playing games on the cell phone or they're constantly communicating with their friends. I think parents are really in a tough position right now.
I mean, really, everybody is, because there's a disconnect from the normal behavior that we grew up with. But everything transitions because my grandparents wouldn't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to adapt. I mean, change is constant. So everything to grow, we always have to have an open mind to growth,
Mm-hmm.
but be able to view the negatives and the positives in the growth. And when you're growing, sometimes things need to be pruned to grow even more and to flourish even more.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
As I was reading your book, um, I think this part was really, really well written. This is page 112. It says, the next few days went with no incidents, but peace did not last long. When you're part of street life, and you have in parentheses, if I've learned anything over the years of my life, this is it. The streets have no love. The streets will be there when you're dead and gone. The streets possess no feelings, thoughts, or emotions, known as the concrete jungle. With the streets, there's always some form of beef, whether it's territorial, jealousy, envy, hatred, whatever, it's always present in this environment. And I thought, boys, that's so true.
It
And
really is. It really
yes.
is. If you truly, um, I consider the streets the wilderness,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and I consider being home as the safe zone. And I try not to venture out into the wilderness unless I have a purpose
mm-hmm,
to be going out there, because you can cross paths. They say being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
mm-hmm,
Well, if I didn't have a reason for going out in the first place, then I would not have crossed the path, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I would not have crossed that path. No, you cannot prevent all things from happening, but you can minimize it. And I
mm-hmm,
say minimize it by the company you keep and the places you go,
mm-hmm,
the things you involve yourselves in. Um, it's good to be involved in structured activities,
mm-hmm,
but not just um, being on the highway with no direction,
mm-hmm.
or just being out, like I said, with no particular reasons for being out, because the idleness is going to attract negativity.
Mm-hmm.
The
Right.
idleness, the boredom.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
my grandmother always says birds of a feather flock together.
and it's true. It's
Mm-hmm.
very true. Yeah.
And, and
Um,
and to watch the company you keep.
that's the most important thing about that book. The company you keep. Something. Oh man. We still here. I had a
I'm
call.
here.
I'll hurry up and declined. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The company you keep, and the decisions you make. That's the main thing that will influence where you go at in life. But the main part is the company you keep, because that support system. If you surround yourself with positivity, you're going to get a positive result. You
Mm-hmm,
surround yourself with negativity, you're going to get a negative result. Period. Point blank.
mm-hmm,
Apples don't produce no oranges, and oranges don't produce no apples.
mm-hmm,
It's simple and plain. You have to surround yourself with positivity. And that's what I always try to promote. Promote positivity. Um, If you're surrounding yourself with people that have dreams, goals, and aspirations, everybody is within that circle is helping each other achieve their dreams, goals, and aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
Even if everybody isn't keeping up, they're able to recognize who isn't and help them along the way. They're able to strengthen them
Mm-hmm.
in a positive manner. But if you in the company of negativity all the time, but also keep in mind, everybody's environment isn't the same. But even in the midst of negativity, a negative environment, you can still be focused.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be determined
Mm-hmm.
and not submit to what's going on around you. You don't let uh, what's going on in the environment dictate what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell victim to that. I allowed what was going on in the environment to influence me in a negative manner, and I embraced it. And it took me down the dark road for some years.
Mm-hmm.
But on the back of my book, you see 3 words in bold letter at the top.
Never give up.
There you go. No matter what. No
Mm-hmm.
matter what. No matter what. Never give up. Always remember there's always tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and progress is the process. Always remember, progress is a process.
It really is. Also, on the back of your book, it states you never know where the path of life may take you, but being able to realize and recognize them with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding enables you to face those obstacles, hurdles, and challenges fearlessly. And I just think this book is so good. It would be good for every young person to read. Like I think it should be in a high school library, because there's so many kids that I think could read this, and it, it may help them change their lives.
Well, if you notice, throughout my book, I put when you get older in life, sometimes you recognize, man, I should have done this different if I could go back in time. And I put
Mm-hmm.
both sides of the coin in there. I put what I did, but I also put if I could go back in time and was faced with that same situation, I would deal with it in a different manner.
Mm-hmm.
I would view it from what I know now, based on better than dealing with something. And a lot of uh, people deal with something impulsive behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's very relevant with young people. Impulsive behavior,
Right.
doing something without actually thinking it through, and then the consequences. It's too late after the fact. But I
Mm-hmm.
always share with people now, think about what you're thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
That will enable you to recognize the source of your thoughts. Sometimes you got to do a self check on yourself. Think about what you're thinking about
Mm-hmm.
and why you want to do this or why you want to do that. You have to have ability to operate with a vision and a plan. That's where the dreams, goals, and aspirations come in place at.
Mm-hmm.
A vision and a plan. Going back to progress is a process. You have to prepare yourself to achieve these different dreams, goals, and aspirations, but you also have to put yourself in position to do so
Mm-hmm.
because you may not be the only person that wants that particular spot.
Right.
So you might have to go the extra mile to get that position. And maybe the position, you may not get it based on your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's based on relationships. You never know why, but you don't give up. Just because that door don't open for you, you go to the next door.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, we build strength through our struggles.
Mm-hmm.
We build strength through our struggles,
Yeah,
you
that
know?
is definitely for sure,
Yeah, yeah.
because you've been
We
through a
build
lot.
strength to endure.
Mhm.
But I thank God. I mean, God know what He's doing. So
Right, because I was also
I
reading.
didn't.
Can I read another excerpt or no?
Please, please, please.
Okay, because let me see here. This is page 426. Um, did I ever deal with being discouraged? Definitely, even to the point of shedding tears in the shower, but I found out who I was and who I was throughout this period of incarceration. Also, I realized I had a daughter that I truly loved and who loved me and is depending on me to lead and guide and direct her in the admission of the Lord. The Lord has truly renewed my heart, mind, and soul and strength from the inside out. Don't get me wrong, I admit I was once lost, blind, and deaf, but God, who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us, got up close and personal with me. He gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. On this charge, I was facing a life sentence of incarceration, but through God's grace and mercy, I've been redeemed. Now I've been found. I'm no longer deaf and blind. I truly thank God for what He's done, doing, and intends to do in and through my life. Throughout my life, when I reflect back on my past dreams, goals, and aspirations, there were many things in life I truly desired to be. Honestly speaking, none of them even came close to my desire to be a pastor and minister the word of God to others. But now I embrace the calling, which I consider my duty, obligation, responsibility to share with others out of love and a sincere heart. That was so well written. That was excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. Like you said, like I said earlier, when the child is in elementary school and the teacher asks them, what do you want to be when you grow up? None of them will say go to prison. And
Mhm.
throughout my whole life, um, I never envisioned being a minister, a pastor, um, motivational speaker. None of this I ever envisioned, but um, God has a purpose. And once God reveals your purpose to you, then purpose produces power.
Mhm.
And I embraced it then. Once I recognized it, and I recognized the purpose through writing a book and being able to see God throughout the whole journey that I've been on and what
Mhm.
He's actually got me through. Um, and a lot of times it was people around me that God used to put me in a safe place.
Mhm.
Um, we have to also be able to recognize and avoid toxic relationships.
Mhm. Definitely.
Be able to recognize toxic relationships.
Mhm. And a lot of our youth don't know even what a toxic relationship is. Either they're naive or they've never experienced something, someone like
Different.
that. Right.
Right. Right. Um, it's hard to recognize a toxic relationship with a parent.
Mhm.
It's hard to recognize a toxic relationship with a close friend.
Yes, it is. Because you, like you had said earlier, you trust them. You've been around them a long time and you've trusted them. And then
Right.
maybe the relationship changes, or people change. I know people change.
But you have to be able to recognize the little hints that something ain't right. They're going to show up. The little hints something ain't right. When you just notice something that just ain't right, don't suppress it and believe, no, it didn't happen. Yeah, it happened, And that should be the red flag for you to say, to start questioning some things. You might not have to question the person, but sometimes you might have to take a step back
Mm-hmm.
and view it from a different angle. Because toxic relationships can truly be toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Oh, right.
toxic. Yeah, yeah. So
And they can even destroy your life.
that's what toxic things do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
It can destroy your life and the lives of others around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And see, and our young people, they don't know this. What you and I are talking about, they have no concept of.
We got some older people don't have some concepts of this situation. Let me share something with you. Something happened this weekend. The young lady worked with my mother, and her and her ex-boyfriend was separated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have anywhere else to go. She allowed him, because she cared about him,
Mm-hmm.
she allowed him to stay at the house, use her vehicle or whatever. And this may have been going on for a couple of months. Saturday night while she was asleep, he killed her.
Hmm.
The
Oh.
person that was willing to help you, in
Mm-hmm.
spite of y'all not even being together anymore,
Mm-hmm.
in her sleep, while their 11-year-old son slept, in a different room.
Oh, how sad. Oh my, I bet that was a
Wow.
shock.
It's a shock to everybody in the community.
Mm.
Even though, they were not even together, she cared enough to not have you on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
She cared enough to even help you. And this is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that truly cuts deep.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah.
Sometimes you don't know. You think you're trying to help someone, and something tragic like this happens, and other things can happen as well, um, but you just don't think it would.
Right. 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 But she should have followed her gut,
Mm-hmm.
because there were other things that had occurred. This couldn't have been the first thing. This couldn't have been it. But she should have followed her heart.
Mm-hmm.
She followed something else, and that allowed that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a relationship between our heart and our mind.
Mm-hmm.
But if she would have followed her heart rather than her mind, it wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scripture I'm going to share with you right quick. It's in Isaiah, it's in Jeremiah. It says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart and test the mind. He searches the heart and tests the mind to give to every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doing. So
Mm-hmm.
that says right there, search the heart, test the mind. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
can I have that scripture again, Jeremiah? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm so sorry.
You really put me on it.
I can find it. Don't, no worries. I just like how that was said. Because it's like going with your gut feeling.
Yeah. 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 Because I mean, there had to be something for them to even break up.
Mm-hmm.
From that breakup, she should have recognized something. Was he receptive to it? I mean, she's not just breaking up with him just to break up with him. What was his reaction?
Mm-hmm.
that would have kind of told you or gave you some sense of how he's going to respond.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's unconscionable that you go to sleep and the person do this to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's I can't
That
even fathom it.
and it's like you can't even make this stuff up. People,
No,
yeah.
no, no, no. Well, I mean, maybe a month ago, look at the father that took his two children to the beach and speared them with the spearfishing thing, and then went home like nothing happened.
Mm.
But I mean, there's always signs and warnings before destruction,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to be able to address that and not allow it to come to fruition, for it to come to life. I mean, we either the part of the problem or we part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, that's what it is. There's no middle. Either we're part of the problem or part of the solution. I have a dual obligation responsibility to be a part of the solution because at one point in time in my life, I was part of the problem. And I say that because I used to be a drug dealer. I used to be in the street. I used to be a negative influencer. So if I help mess it up, then I have a dual obligation responsibility to help fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. How are things with your daughter now?
Matter of fact, they're fine. I've learned to step back and let my daughter be my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You can't force relationships. That's one thing you cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot force anything on anyone. They're going to rebel. So you just allow time. Time will do something. Time will heal all wounds. I
Mm-hmm.
promise you that. Give it enough time and it will heal, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever time will close the gap of separation.
Mm-hmm.
Time is the key. Give it time.
Mm-hmm.
Give it time. Just continue to, I mean, nothing's wrong with loving somebody from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't force love.
Right. Right.
Can't do that. And it's hard to put a child in the middle of picking a parent against another parent.
Mm-hmm.
A child doesn't want to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't, just give it time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you let go and let go.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll take care of it.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of parents need to hear this too. Yeah.
You know,
And,
give it to God.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, as we were going back to, your gut feeling. I remember years ago, I was watching Oprah and she had on a woman called Ileana Van Zanten. I hope I pronounced that right. She's a author as well, but she was saying, if, you're used to crazy, and we're talking like toxic relationships, if you're used to that and being in that, mindset, and you want to break free from it, you have to break free from it. But if you're on the street and you see crazy coming down the street, you should cross the street and go a different direction. And immediately when she said that, that's when I knew I had to take a different course in my life.
Right.
And I think this is kind of what your book is doing as well and saying as well.
Right. In spite of how you feel at the moment, in spite of that, you have to take a step back and let time, because there may be other things influencing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But time you step back, let time do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in due time, a person is going to embrace it or they're going to reject it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't force it. That's one thing you can't do.
Right.
Yeah.
You just have to
But I
sit
mean,
back. Yeah.
God said love conquers all.
Mm-hmm.
And we can love somebody from a distance. But we can't force anyone to love us.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we love them, they still may not understand love. They may not receive it. They may not reciprocate it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are selfish. I mean, this is just truth. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are just selfish. Some people are just about them. Period. Period.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true.
Yeah. You know,
I think
they
there's,
don't. They,
yeah, there's way too much selfishness in this world. Mm-hmm.
but social media has done this
Mm-hmm.
because it has separated the personal relationships. So a lot of people have platonic relationships,
Good one. Right.
relationships based on convenience or what's beneficial to the persons involved.
Yeah, that's very
But
true.
it's hard to have someone in a relationship that's willing to endure struggles or weather the storm that one or both are going through.
Mm-hmm.
Some people recognize when the storm comes, it's time for them to go in another direction and they won't go through the struggle with you,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. But you recognize who's who and what's what in the midst of the storms of life
Mm-hmm.
because they don't stop coming. Everyday hurdles, challenges, and obstacles. You
Mm-hmm.
recognize who's there for you in the midst of those struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Not when you all the way up, because you can have a cheerleading team. Everybody's with you when you're up, but who's there when you're down?
Mm-hmm.
Who has a sincere concern for you and your well-being?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like fair weathered friends.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I'm really glad I had you on. I'd like you to be a
Thank you.
return guest as we watch your progress. How can people find your book? And it's called um, The 40-Mile Journey. Where can people find the 40-Mile Journey?
The 40-Mile Journey, my book is available on Amazon, and it's also available on Blurb, Blurb.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people can contact me at info@cordelleellis.com.
Mm-hmm. And you're on
Oh,
Facebook. Oh, I'm so
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
You're
go
on
ahead. Go
face.
ahead.
You're on Facebook as Moenspire 365 LLC. And did you want to leave your phone number or no? Do you want to read it off?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, people can contact me on Instagram too at Moenspire 365
Okay.
LLC. Yeah. But no, if they're going to contact me, they're going to contact me. I don't have to leave the number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. Well, Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in the family courtrooms. And I'm your host, Maryann Petri, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again with Cordell in the future and other exciting episodes. And I thank you, Cordell.
I thank you. I truly appreciate you. And I hope to be on your podcast again in the future.
Definitely, because I have learned so much from you, and your book is excellent.
Thank you.